The morning sun cast long shadows across the military firing range as Colonel Marcus Steele adjusted his combat hat and surveyed the sprawling facility. 23 years of service had taught him to read people quickly, and the slight figure approaching the check-in booth made him pause mid-stride. She couldn't have been more than 22, maybe 23 at most, with auburn hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and wearing civilian clothes that hung loose on her small frame. "Sir, we have a situation at the front desk," Sergeant Rodriguez called out, jogging toward the colonel with a clipboard in his hand. His expression carried that particular blend of confusion and barely contained amusement that usually meant trouble. Steele followed Rodriguez's gaze to where the young woman stood at the registration window, apparently in animated discussion with Staff Sergeant Williams. Even from 50 yards away, the colonel could see Williams shaking his head repeatedly while gesturing toward a thick manual open on the counter between them. "What's the issue, Rodriguez?" Steele asked, though he was already walking toward the disturbance. In his experience, problems were best handled quickly and decisively. "The girl wants to qualify for advanced marksman certification," Rodriguez explained, struggling to keep up with the colonel's longer stride. Williams tried explaining the prerequisites, but she's insisting she meets the requirements. She's got some kind of civilian shooting competition background. Colonel Steele's eyebrows rose slightly. The Advanced Marksman program was designed for special operations personnel, with qualification standards that made seasoned veterans sweat. Most candidates came from elite units like the Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, or Marine Force Recon. The idea of a civilian girl fresh out of college even attempting the course was almost laughable. "Good morning," Steele announced as he approached the desk, his authoritative voice immediately drawing both Williams and the young woman's attention. "I'm Colonel Steele. I understand there's some confusion about certification requirements." The girl turned to face him, and Steele was struck by her eyes, a startling shade of green that seemed to assess him with unsettling directness. She showed no sign of intimidation, despite being surrounded by career military personnel, which was either impressive confidence or dangerous naivety. "No confusion on my part, sir," she replied, politely but firmly. "I'm Sarah Chen, and I'd like to attempt the Advanced Marksman qualification. I've reviewed the requirements, and I believe I'm eligible." Williams cleared his throat diplomatically. "Colonel, Ms. Chen has civilian competition experience, but the advanced program requires prior military training or law enforcement background. She doesn't qualify under current regulations." Sarah's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "With respect, Sergeant, Regulation 1523 Alpha states that civilian applicants may attempt qualification if they demonstrate equivalent experience through documented competition results and pass a preliminary assessment." The silence that followed was thick with surprise. Steele found himself reassessing the young woman standing before him. Not only had she memorized an obscure regulation that most soldiers couldn't quote, but she'd done so with the kind of precision that suggested serious preparation. "You've certainly done your homework," Steele admitted. "What kind of competition experience are we talking about?" Sarah reached into her backpack and withdrew a folder thick with certificates and newspaper clippings. "I've been competing since I was 12. 3-time national junior champion, 2-time collegiate All-American, and current holder of 4 state records in precision shooting." She spread the documents across the counter with practiced efficiency. Steele picked up a newspaper clipping from the previous month, showing Sarah holding a trophy nearly as tall as she was, with a headline reading, "Local College Student Breaks 30-Year Shooting Record." "Impressive credentials," Steele acknowledged, though his tone remained skeptical. But competition shooting and military marksmanship are entirely different animals. Competition is about precision under controlled conditions. Military shooting is about effectiveness under stress, in adverse conditions, often while being shot at. "I understand that, sir," Sarah replied. That's exactly why I want to test myself against military standards. I've learned everything I can from civilian competition. I need a real challenge. Rodriguez leaned closer to the colonel. Sir, the SEAL Team 3 is scheduled for recertification this afternoon. They've got range time blocked from 1400 to 1800 hours. A slow grin spread across Colonel Steele's weathered face. SEAL Team 3 included some of the finest marksmen in the military, men who regularly qualified expert with every weapon system in their arsenal. If this girl wanted a real challenge, he could certainly provide one. Tell you what, Ms. Chen, Steele said, his voice carrying the tone of someone about to teach an important lesson. I'll make you a deal. If you can outshoot my SEAL team this afternoon, I'll personally approve your advanced certification attempt. But if you can't, you agree to start with the basic civilian program and work your way up through proper channels. Sarah's eyes lit up with something that might have been excitement or determination. What exactly would the challenge involve? Standard qualification course, Steele explained. Multiple distances, various positions, different target types. Same course my SEALs use for recertification. You'd compete directly against active duty special operations personnel. The gathering crowd of soldiers and Marines had grown quiet, sensing drama in the making. Word of the unusual challenge was already spreading through the informal communication network that existed on every military base. I accept, Sarah said without hesitation. Williams looked like he wanted to object, but a glance from Colonel Steele silenced him. The staff sergeant had seen enough young hotshots get humbled by military reality to know how this would probably end. Outstanding, Steele said. Report back here at 13:30 hours. Wear appropriate clothing. No loose sleeves, closed-toe shoes, eye and ear protection. The SEALs don't believe in taking it easy on anyone, regardless of age or gender. As Sarah walked away, her confident stride never faltering, Steele found himself curious about the afternoon's events. In his experience, civilian competition shooters usually crumbled when faced with military-style pressure. The weapons were different, the targets were different, and the psychological environment was completely foreign to what they knew. Think she has any chance, Colonel? Rodriguez asked quietly. Steele watched Sarah's retreating form disappear around the corner of the ammunition building. Honestly, no. But I admire the courage it takes to even try. Sometimes that's worth more than hitting the target. The morning progressed with typical military efficiency. Equipment was cleaned and inspected, schedules were reviewed, and the shooting lanes were prepared for the afternoon's activities. Word of the unusual challenge had spread throughout the base, and Steele noticed more personnel than usual finding reasons to be near the rifle range around lunchtime. At 1300 hours, the SEAL team arrived in their characteristic, no-nonsense manner. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, the team leader, was a compact man in his early 30s with the kind of quiet intensity that marked truly dangerous individuals. His team consisted of 8 operators, each one a veteran of multiple combat deployments. "Afternoon, Colonel," Morrison said, offering a crisp salute. "I understand we're providing entertainment today." "Something like that," Steele replied. "Young woman thinks she can outshoot your boys." "I figured you might enjoy the diversion." Morrison's team gathered around as Steele explained the situation. Their reactions ranged from amusement to mild annoyance at having their training time disrupted by what they clearly viewed as a publicity stunt. "With all due respect, sir," said Petty Officer First Class Danny Murphy, the team's designated marksman, "we've got recertification requirements to meet. Can't afford to waste time on games." "Consider it part of your training," Steele suggested. "Sometimes you need to shoot under unusual circumstances. Having spectators and distractions is good practice." At exactly 13 to 30 hours, Sarah Chen reappeared at the range. She had changed into dark jeans, combat boots, and a fitted black t-shirt that revealed a lean, athletic build. Her hair was now secured with both a ponytail and a bandana, and she carried a professional-looking shooting bag that suggested serious equipment inside. The SEALs' casual conversation died away as they got their first good look at their competition. She was smaller than most of them had expected, but there was something in her bearing that suggested coiled energy and focused determination. "Gentlemen," Colonel Steele announced, "meet Sarah Chen, your competition for this afternoon." Morrison stepped forward and extended his hand. "Ma'am, I'm Lieutenant Commander Morrison. These are my boys. We'll do our best to make this a fair contest." Sarah shook his hand with a firm grip. "I appreciate that, Commander. I know you weren't expecting to babysit a civilian today." "No babysitting involved," Morrison replied, his respect for her directness evident. "We shoot the same course, same standards. May the best shooter win." The standard SEAL qualification course was divided into 5 stages, each designed to test different aspects of marksmanship skill. Stage 1 involved precision shooting at 300 yards from a prone position. Stage 2 moved to 200 yards with a mix of standing and kneeling positions. Stage 3 was rapid fire at 100 yards. Stage 4 tested moving targets and quick acquisition. Stage 5 was the infamous stress course, where shooters had to engage multiple targets while navigating physical obstacles. "We'll shoot in pairs," Morrison explained. 2 shooters per lane side by side. Standard scoring system. 10 points for center mass, declining by distance from center. Perfect score is 500 points total. Sarah nodded her understanding while unpacking her equipment. The SEALs were using standard military M4 carbines with iron sights, the same weapons they carried in combat. Sarah withdrew a precision rifle that made several of the operators whistle in appreciation. A custom-built bolt action, chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor with high-end optics and a competition stock. "Nice equipment," Murphy commented. "Must have cost more than my car." "It's a tool," Sarah replied simply. "I believe in using the right tool for the job." The first stage began with Sarah paired against Petty Officer Second Class Rico Santos, a veteran sniper with confirmed kills in 3 different theaters of operation. The 300-yard targets were standard military silhouettes, challenging enough to separate competent shooters from exceptional ones. Santos took his position with practiced efficiency, his movements economical and precise. Sarah settled into the lane beside him, adjusting her rifle's bipod and checking her scope settings with methodical care. "Shooters ready?" called Master Chief Peterson, who was serving as range safety officer. "You have 2 minutes to engage 10 targets. Begin when ready." Santos fired his first shot within seconds, the sharp crack of his M4 echoing across the range. Sarah took nearly 30 seconds before her first shot, seemingly oblivious to the time pressure as she focused on her sight picture. The electronic targets downrange registered hits immediately. Santos was shooting fast and accurate, his military training evident in the steady rhythm of his fire. Sarah's pace was much slower, but each shot seemed to be placed with deliberate precision. "Time!" Peterson called. The target results appeared on monitors visible to the growing crowd of spectators. Santos had scored 485 out of 500 possible points, an excellent score that would have been the high mark on most qualification days. Sarah's target showed 495 points, with 9 shots in the 10 ring and 1 barely outside it. A murmur ran through the assembled SEALs. High scores weren't unusual, but outscoring Santos on the precision stage was something none of them had expected from a civilian. "Lucky first round," Murphy muttered, but his tone suggested he wasn't entirely convinced of his own words. Stage 2 paired Sarah against Murphy himself, the team's designated marksman, and arguably their best all-around shooter. The 200-yard course required shooters to engage targets from multiple positions, testing not just accuracy, but adaptability and speed. Murphy approached the line with increased focus, clearly taking the competition more seriously after Sarah's performance in Stage 1. His years of combat experience showed as he transitioned smoothly between standing, kneeling, and prone positions. Sarah's approach was different but equally effective. Where Murphy relied on practiced muscle memory, she seemed to analyze each position carefully before committing to her shot. Her transitions were slower, but her shooting was remarkably consistent. The final scores: Murphy 478, Sarah 491. By Stage 3, the casual atmosphere had completely disappeared. The SEALs were no longer treating this as entertainment. They were facing a genuine challenge to their professional pride. The rapid-fire stage at 100 yards was supposed to favor military training, where speed and stress management were as important as pure accuracy. Sarah found herself paired against Lieutenant Morrison himself, and the team leader approached the firing line with grim determination. This was his team's reputation on the line, and he wasn't about to let a civilian embarrass his operators. The rapid-fire stage allowed 30 seconds to engage 15 targets, a pace that demanded both speed and precision. Morrison opened fire immediately, his shots coming in a steady, mechanical rhythm that spoke of thousands of hours of training. Sarah started more slowly, but accelerated as she found her rhythm. Her shots were spaced more irregularly than Morrison's, but each one seemed to find its mark with uncanny precision. When the smoke cleared, Morrison had scored 471 points, a respectable performance that would normally secure his position as the stage winner. Sarah had scored 488. The crowd of spectators had grown to include nearly 50 personnel from various units on base. Word was spreading that something extraordinary was happening at the rifle range, and off-duty soldiers were abandoning their afternoon activities to witness the unprecedented spectacle. "This is getting interesting," Colonel Steele murmured to Rodriguez, who was busy taking unofficial bets from the growing crowd. Stage 4 introduced moving targets and multiple target acquisition, skills that heavily favored combat-experienced operators. The SEALs had engaged moving enemies under life-or-death conditions, while Sarah's experience was limited to stationary paper targets in controlled environments. Petty Officer Carlos Ramirez, the team's urban warfare specialist, stepped up with visible confidence. Moving targets were his specialty, and he'd never been beaten by anyone outside the special operations community. The targets moved at varying speeds across a 75-yard range, appearing and disappearing behind cover in patterns designed to simulate combat conditions. Shooters had to identify threats, engage quickly, and move on to new targets without hesitation. Ramirez performed exactly as expected, his shots finding their marks with lethal efficiency. His combat experience showed in how he prioritized targets and managed his ammunition. His final score of 462 was excellent for the challenging stage. Sarah's approach was markedly different. She seemed to study the target patterns for several seconds before engaging, then shot with the same deliberate precision she'd shown throughout the afternoon. Her score, 479. The crowd had fallen nearly silent. Even the SEALs were beginning to show genuine concern about their team's performance. Murphy was overheard telling Santos that maybe they should have taken the competition more seriously from the beginning. But Stage 5 remained, the stress course that had broken more than one overconfident shooter. This was where military training and combat experience would surely prove decisive. The course required shooters to navigate physical obstacles while engaging targets at various distances, all while carrying full combat load and wearing protective gear. Sarah would face the entire SEAL team in a relay format, with each operator running the course individually while she did the same. It was designed to be the ultimate test of shooting skill under pressure, the kind of challenge that separated special operations personnel from everyone else. As the afternoon sun began its descent toward the horizon, casting longer shadows across the range, Colonel Steele found himself genuinely curious about the outcome. In all his years of military service, he'd never seen a civilian shooter perform at this level against his best operators. Whatever happened in the final stage, Sarah Chen had already accomplished something remarkable. She'd earned the respect of some of the military's most elite personnel and proven that skill could come from unexpected sources. The real test, however, was still to come. The stress course stretched across 200 yards of carefully designed obstacles, each one calculated to test a shooter's ability to maintain accuracy while under physical and mental pressure. Sarah stood at the starting line, studying the course layout, while Master Chief Peterson explained the rules to the assembled crowd. "The course simulates urban combat conditions," Peterson announced, his voice carrying easily across the range. "Shooters will navigate barriers, crawl sections, climbing walls, and moving platforms while engaging targets at distances from 25 to 300 yards. Time limit is 8 minutes. Any missed obstacles result in time penalties." Lieutenant Commander Morrison approached Sarah as his team prepared their equipment. "Ma'am, I want to make sure you understand what you're getting into. This course is designed to push special operations personnel to their limits. No shame in backing out now." Sarah appreciated the genuine concern in his voice, but her green eyes held steady determination. "I understand the risks, Commander. I've come this far." Morrison nodded respectfully. "In that case, would you prefer to run the course first or last?" "First," Sarah replied without hesitation. "I'd rather set the standard than chase it." The answer surprised Morrison. Most inexperienced shooters preferred to go last, hoping to learn from watching others attempt the course. Sarah's choice to lead off showed either supreme confidence or dangerous overestimation of her abilities. Colonel Steele checked his watch as Sarah prepared her equipment. The afternoon crowd had swelled to nearly 100 spectators, including several high-ranking officers who'd abandoned their duties to witness what was becoming legendary even as it happened. Word had reached the base commander, who was reportedly en route to observe the final stage personally. Sarah stripped down to essential gear: rifle, ammunition, eye and ear protection, and a simple sling system. The SEALs watched with professional interest as she checked her equipment with methodical precision, noting that despite her civilian background, she approached preparation with military-like attention to detail. "Shooter ready?" Peterson called. Sarah positioned herself at the starting line, rifle at low ready position. Her breathing was controlled and steady, showing no visible signs of nervousness despite facing her most challenging test yet. "Begin!" Sarah exploded into motion, her small frame proving advantageous as she dove through the first obstacle, a series of concrete pipes barely wide enough for a full-grown man. The SEALs had expected her to struggle with the physical demands, but she emerged from the crawling section faster than most of them managed. The first target appeared at 50 yards, a pop-up silhouette that remained visible for exactly 3 seconds. Sarah dropped to one knee, acquired her target, and fired. The electronic system registered a center mass hit as she was already moving toward the next obstacle. A rope climb followed, leading to an elevated platform where she had to engage 3 targets at varying distances while maintaining her balance. Sarah ascended the rope with surprising speed, her lean muscle and low body weight working in her favor. At the platform, she steadied herself against the safety rail and began engaging targets. 50 yards, hit, 100 yards, hit, 200 yards, hit. The crowd was beginning to murmur with amazement. Sarah was not just completing the course successfully, she was doing it with the kind of fluid efficiency that marked truly exceptional performers. The next section required her to low crawl under simulated barbed wire while engaging targets through narrow apertures. This was where many shooters struggled, trying to maintain accuracy while lying prone in uncomfortable positions with limited fields of fire. Sarah approached the challenge differently than the SEALs expected. Instead of rushing through the crawling section, she took time to study each firing position before committing. Her shots were deliberate and precise, each one finding its mark despite the awkward shooting angles. "Unbelievable," Murphy muttered to Santos. She's shooting better under stress than most people do from a bench rest. The climbing wall presented the course's most physically demanding challenge. 8 feet of vertical concrete with minimal handholds, designed to test upper body strength and endurance. Sarah paused at the base, studying the handholds with the same analytical approach she'd shown throughout the afternoon. Her ascent was methodical rather than aggressive, each movement calculated to conserve energy. She reached the top with enough strength remaining to engage the targets waiting on the reverse side, 3 silhouettes at distances from 25 to 100 yards, all requiring shots within a 10-second window. Sarah's rifle cracked 3 times in rapid succession, 3 hits registered on the electronic display. The final section of the course was the most complex, featuring moving platforms, swinging targets, and multiple firing positions that had to be navigated in sequence. This was where combat experience typically proved decisive, where the ability to process multiple threats while maintaining situational awareness separated elite operators from everyone else. Sarah approached the final challenge with the same focused intensity she'd shown throughout the afternoon. Her movements were becoming more fluid as she adapted to the course's demands, her civilian competition background translating surprisingly well to the military environment. A moving target swept across her field of fire at 75 yards. Sarah tracked it smoothly, led the target appropriately, and scored a solid hit. A pop-up target appeared to her left, forcing her to shift position quickly. Another hit. The course's final challenge required engaging 3 targets simultaneously from an elevated position while a timer counted down from 15 seconds. Miss the time window, and all 3 shots would be scored as failures regardless of accuracy. Sarah reached the position with 6 seconds remaining. 3 targets at different distances and angles, each requiring precise holdover calculations and perfect execution under time pressure. She had one chance to prove that her afternoon's performance wasn't just luck. Her rifle spoke 3 times in rapid succession. 3 hits appeared on the scoring display as time expired. Sarah had completed the course in 6 minutes and 47 seconds with a perfect score, every target engaged, every hit scoring in the center mass zone. The stunned silence that followed was broken only by the electronic beeping of the timing system. Colonel Steele found himself applauding before he realized what he was doing. The performance he'd just witnessed was exceptional by any standard, made more remarkable by the fact that it had come from someone with no formal military training. "Outstanding performance," Morrison said as Sarah climbed down from the final platform. His tone carried genuine respect and no trace of condescension. "I've seen seasoned operators struggle with that course." Sarah accepted the compliment with a nod, but her attention was already focused on the SEAL team's upcoming attempts. She understood that her performance, however impressive, meant nothing if the SEALs could match or exceed it. Petty Officer Santos volunteered to run the course first for his team. As the youngest member of the unit, he had something to prove and was known for his aggressive approach to physical challenges. He attacked the course with characteristic intensity, his movements explosive and confident. Santos's military training showed immediately. His transitions between obstacles were smooth and practiced, his shooting positions textbook perfect. But the aggressive pace began to take its toll as the course progressed. His shots, while accurate, lacked the mechanical precision Sarah had demonstrated. Santos completed the course in 6 minutes and 23 seconds with a score of 463 out of 500 possible points. An excellent performance that would normally be the highlight of any qualification session, but 24 seconds faster than Sarah with 37 fewer points. Murphy went next, his approach more methodical than Santos's. As the team's designated marksman, he understood the importance of balancing speed with accuracy. His performance was steady and professional, each shot placed with careful precision. Murphy's final time was 7 minutes and 8 seconds with a score of 478, slower than Sarah, but with higher accuracy than Santos, demonstrating the classic military trade-off between speed and precision. Ramirez followed with his characteristic urban warfare expertise, showing in how he navigated the close-quarters sections. His combat experience in Iraqi cities had taught him to move efficiently through confined spaces while maintaining weapons-ready status. Ramirez finished in 6 minutes and 55 seconds with a score of 471. Close to Sarah's time, but still short of her perfect accuracy. Lieutenant Commander Morrison took the course with the weight of his team's reputation riding on his performance. As the team leader, he carried the responsibility for their collective showing against an unexpected civilian challenger. Morrison's approach combined the best elements of his teammates' attempts. His movements were fluid and efficient, his shooting disciplined and controlled. Years of combat leadership had taught him to perform under pressure while making split-second decisions. The course seemed almost routine under Morrison's experienced handling. He navigated each obstacle with practiced ease, engaging targets with the mechanical precision of someone who'd faced similar challenges countless times in real combat situations. Morrison's final time was 6 minutes and 31 seconds with a score of 485, the best combined performance of any SEAL team member, but still short of Sarah's perfect score and 16 seconds slower. The remaining team members took their turns with results ranging from solid to excellent by normal standards, but none managed to match Sarah's combination of speed and perfect accuracy. By the time the last SEAL completed the course, the reality was undeniable. The civilian girl had outperformed an entire team of Special Operations personnel. Colonel Steele stepped forward as the final scores were tabulated and displayed. The numbers told a story that would be discussed in military circles for years to come. Sarah Chen had not only defeated the SEAL team, she had done so convincingly. "Ladies and gentlemen," Steele announced to the assembled crowd, "I've been in the military for over 2 decades, and I've never seen anything quite like what we witnessed today." He turned to Sarah, who stood quietly beside her rifle case, seemingly unaffected by the magnitude of her achievement. "Ms. Chen, you've earned something more valuable than any qualification certificate today. You've earned the respect of some of the finest warriors in the world." Morrison stepped forward and extended his hand to Sarah. "Ma'am, it would be an honor to have you train with our team anytime you're available. We could learn from each other." The offer was unprecedented. SEAL teams didn't extend training invitations to civilians, particularly not based on a single afternoon's performance. But Sarah's demonstration had transcended normal military protocol. "I'd be honored, Commander," Sarah replied, accepting the handshake. "I have a lot to learn about applying these skills in real-world situations." Master Chief Peterson approached with a clipboard full of official forms. "Ms. Chen, based on today's performance, I'm authorized to approve your Advanced Marksman certification immediately, no additional testing required." As the crowd began to disperse and equipment was secured for the day, Colonel Steele found himself in conversation with several of his senior staff members. The afternoon's events had raised questions that went beyond simple marksmanship qualification. "Sir," Rodriguez said quietly, "we might want to consider what kind of opportunities we can offer someone with her skills. That level of natural ability combined with proper military training could be exceptional." Steele nodded thoughtfully. Military recruiting was always challenging, and finding individuals with Sarah's combination of skill and composure was rare. But there were protocols to consider and career implications to evaluate. "Let's see how serious she is about continuing," Steele replied. "Anyone can have one good day. Consistency over time is what separates truly exceptional performers from lucky shooters." As the sun set over the firing range, Sarah packed her equipment with the same methodical care she'd shown throughout the day. Several SEALs lingered to discuss technique and share stories, treating her as a peer rather than an outsider. Murphy approached as she secured her rifle case. "Ma'am, I've been shooting competitively since I was 16 and professionally for 8 years. I've never seen anyone adapt to new conditions as quickly as you did today." Thank you, Sarah replied. I learned a lot watching your team perform. Competition shooting taught me accuracy, but you guys showed me what it means to shoot under real pressure. The conversation continued as the group walked toward the parking area, discussing everything from equipment preferences to training methodologies. The barriers that had existed at the beginning of the afternoon had completely dissolved, replaced by mutual respect and professional curiosity. Lieutenant Commander Morrison lingered as Sarah loaded her equipment into a modest sedan that seemed incongruous with her exceptional performance. Ms. Chen, I meant what I said about training opportunities. If you're serious about developing these skills further, we run advanced courses that might interest you. Sarah paused with her rifle case halfway into the trunk. What kind of courses? Tactical shooting, urban warfare scenarios, team-based operations, Morrison explained. Skills that go beyond individual marksmanship into practical application. But I should warn you, it's demanding training with a high failure rate. I'm interested, Sarah said without hesitation. When would something like that be available? Morrison pulled out his smartphone and scrolled through a calendar. We're running a specialized course in 3 weeks, mixed unit training with participants from several elite teams. It's invitation only, typically restricted to military personnel. He looked up from his phone with a slight smile. But I think we can make an exception for someone who just outshot my entire team. As Sarah drove away from the base, Colonel Steele stood with his senior staff watching her taillights disappear into the distance. The afternoon had challenged several assumptions about civilian versus military training, about gender roles in combat sports, and about the sources of exceptional performance. Think we'll see her again? Rodriguez asked. Steele considered the question while reviewing the day's score sheets. Sarah Chen's performance had been remarkable, but more impressive than her shooting had been her composure and professionalism under pressure. Those qualities couldn't be taught. They were innate characteristics that marked individuals destined for exceptional achievement. I think, Steele said slowly, we're going to be seeing a lot more of Ms. Chen, and I think we're all going to be better for it. 3 weeks later, Sarah arrived at the military base before dawn, her sedan pulling into the visitor parking lot as the first hints of sunrise painted the eastern sky. The specialized tactical training course that Lieutenant Commander Morrison had mentioned was scheduled to begin at 600 hours, and she had learned enough about military culture to understand that early arrival was expected, not optional. The intervening weeks had been a whirlwind of background checks, medical examinations, and administrative paperwork required for a civilian to participate in advanced military training. Colonel Steele had personally expedited the process, but even his influence couldn't eliminate the bureaucratic machinery entirely. Sarah had used the time productively, researching tactical shooting methodologies and studying military small unit tactics. Her perfectionist nature demanded that she arrive as prepared as possible, despite knowing that nothing could fully ready her for what lay ahead. The training facility was different from the standard rifle range where she'd first encountered the SEALs. This complex featured multiple buildings designed to simulate urban environments, complete with narrow corridors, stairwells, and rooms configured to replicate real-world combat scenarios. Ms. Chen, a familiar voice called as she gathered her equipment from the car. Master Chief Peterson emerged from the administrative building, carrying a steaming coffee cup and wearing the expression of someone who'd been awake for several hours already. Good morning, Master Chief, Sarah replied. I wasn't sure about the check-in procedures for civilians. Peterson's weathered face cracked into a slight smile. Same as everyone else. Report to the briefing room at 0545 hours, grab coffee if you need it, and try not to look too nervous when they start explaining what you've gotten yourself into. As they walked toward the main building, Peterson continued his informal briefing. 36 participants this cycle, drawn from SEALs, Rangers, Force Recon, and a few Special Operations aviation units. Average experience level is about 8 years of military service. You're going to be the only civilian and probably the youngest person in the group. Sarah absorbed this information while mentally reviewing her preparation. Competition shooting had taught her to perform under scrutiny, but this would be different. These were combat veterans who'd tested their skills in life-or-death situations, and she would be the obvious outsider trying to prove she belonged. The briefing room buzzed with quiet conversation as Sarah entered. 35 military personnel in various uniforms filled the space, their attention immediately focusing on the young woman in civilian clothes. Some faces showed curiosity, others skepticism, but most displayed the professional neutrality that marked experienced operators. Lieutenant Commander Morrison approached as Sarah selected a seat near the back of the room. "Glad you made it," he said quietly. "Word has spread about your range performance. Most of these guys are curious to see what you can do." "Any advice?" Sarah asked, appreciating Morrison's continued mentorship. "Same as before," Morrison replied. "Let your performance speak for itself. These are professionals who respect competence above everything else." The course instructor entered precisely at 0600 hours, his presence immediately commanding the room's attention. Master Sergeant Tyler Kane was a compact man in his 40s whose resume included combat deployments on 4 continents and instructor positions at every major special operations training facility. "Gentlemen," Kane began, his voice carrying easily through the room, "and lady, welcome to Advanced Tactical Marksmanship Integration. Over the next 10 days, you will be pushed to your limits and probably beyond. Some of you will exceed your own expectations. Others will discover that your current skill level isn't as advanced as you believed." Kane's gaze swept the room, pausing briefly on Sarah before continuing. "This course integrates individual shooting skills with team tactics, urban warfare scenarios, and high-stress decision-making. You will be evaluated not just on accuracy, but on speed, adaptability, leadership, and the ability to perform under conditions designed to replicate real combat." The morning briefing continued with administrative details, safety protocols, and equipment requirements. Sarah found herself taking notes more extensively than most participants, her civilian background leaving her less familiar with military terminology and procedures. The first practical exercise began immediately after lunch. Participants were divided into 6-person teams for urban warfare scenarios, with team composition deliberately mixing personnel from different military branches. Sarah found herself assigned to Team Charlie alongside 2 Navy SEALs, 2 Army Rangers, and a Marine Force recon operator. "Looks like we got the wild card," commented Staff Sergeant Mike Torres, one of the Rangers, as introductions were made. His tone was neutral, neither hostile nor welcoming. "Let's see what she can do before making judgments," replied Gunnery Sergeant Lisa Park, the Force Recon Marine. At 28, Park was one of only 3 women in the course, and her comment carried the authority of someone who'd faced similar skepticism throughout her career. The team's first scenario involved clearing a multi-story building of simulated hostile forces, with each floor presenting different tactical challenges. Team members would rotate through various roles, including point man, support, communications, and overwatch positions. Sarah was assigned to the overwatch position for the initial run, responsible for providing covering fire from an elevated position, while her teammates cleared the building's interior. The role suited her marksmanship strengths while allowing her to observe military small unit tactics in action. As Team Charlie prepared to enter the simulation building, Sarah positioned herself on a neighboring rooftop with her rifle and communications equipment. The urban environment was remarkably realistic, complete with civilian mannequins, multiple entry points, and pop-up targets designed to test split-second threat identification. "Overwatch in position," Sarah reported through her radio as her teammates approached the building entrance. The team moved with practiced coordination, their years of training evident in how they communicated and supported each other. Sarah watched through her scope as they systematically cleared each room, her role requiring her to identify threats that might appear at windows or other unexpected locations. A target appeared in a third-floor window, weapon aimed at one of Sarah's teammates. The range was approximately 150 yards, with a narrow angle of fire between concrete supports. Sarah acquired the target, confirmed it was hostile rather than civilian, and fired. The electronic target registered a center mass hit, eliminating the threat before it could engage her team. "Good shot, Overwatch," came Torres's voice through the radio. "Target down!" The exercise continued for 40 minutes, with Sarah engaging 6 additional targets from her elevated position. Each shot was precise and decisive, helping her team complete their mission without casualties. When the scenario ended, Master Sergeant Kane gathered all participants for an after-action review. "Team Charlie, excellent coordination and communication," Kane announced. "Overwatch position provided outstanding support throughout the exercise. Ms. Chen, your threat identification and engagement times were among the best we've recorded." The praise was matter-of-fact rather than effusive, but Sarah understood its significance. Kane was known for sparing compliments, and his acknowledgement carried weight with the other participants. Over the following days, Sarah rotated through every position and role within her team. Each assignment brought new challenges that tested different aspects of her developing tactical skills. Room clearing required close-quarters shooting and instant threat assessment. Point position demanded leadership and split-second decision-making. Communications roles tested her ability to coordinate multiple team elements under pressure. Her civilian background initially created obstacles in areas requiring military experience. She was slower to recognize tactical symbols, less familiar with radio protocols, and uncertain about standard operating procedures that other participants took for granted. But her natural analytical abilities and fierce determination to excel drove rapid improvement. On the 4th day, the course introduced night vision operations, adding another layer of complexity to already challenging scenarios. Sarah had never used military night vision equipment, and the green-tinged world of intensified light required significant adjustment. "It's like learning to shoot all over again," she admitted to Gunnery Sergeant Park during a brief equipment break. "Everyone struggles with nods initially," Park replied, using military slang for night vision devices. "The depth perception is different, and the limited field of view takes getting used to. You're adapting faster than most first-timers." The night exercises proved to be Sarah's most challenging yet. Target identification became more difficult, and the unfamiliar equipment slowed her normally quick reactions. But by the 3rd night operation, she was performing at nearly the same level as her military teammates. Master Sergeant Kane observed her progress with professional interest. In his 15 years as an instructor, he had seen thousands of military personnel attempt advanced training, but civilians were exceptionally rare. Sarah's rapid adaptation to military methods impressed him, particularly her ability to integrate individual skills into team operations. The course's midpoint evaluation took place on day 5, with each participant facing a comprehensive assessment of their accumulated skills. The test combined individual marksmanship, tactical movement, team leadership, and decision-making in a complex scenario designed to push everyone to their limits. Sarah's scenario placed her in command of a 5-person team tasked with rescuing hostages from a fortified position while under time pressure and with limited ammunition. The exercise required her to balance multiple priorities while maintaining tactical effectiveness. "Team Alpha, you have 15 minutes to penetrate the target building, secure 2 hostages, and extract to the rally point," Kane announced as Sarah and her assigned team prepared for the mission. "Enemy forces are well-armed and highly motivated. Civilian casualties will result in mission failure." Sarah studied the building layout and considered her options. Her team consisted of experienced operators, but they were deliberately unfamiliar with each other to test leadership abilities. She had to quickly assess each member's capabilities while developing a tactical plan. "Rodriguez, you're our best urban fighter," Sarah began, addressing the SEAL who'd been assigned to her team. "Take point and lead us to the target floor. Washington, you're on communications and rear security. Martinez, you'll cover our extraction route from the stairwell." Her plan was methodical and well-reasoned, taking advantage of each team member's strengths while maintaining tactical flexibility. The team moved through the building with coordinated efficiency, encountering multiple hostile targets that required split-second engagement decisions. Sarah's shooting was flawless throughout the exercise, but more importantly, her leadership kept the team focused and coordinated under pressure. When unexpected complications arose, a blocked exit route and additional hostile forces, she adapted quickly while maintaining mission focus. The team successfully extracted both hostages with 2 minutes to spare and 0 civilian casualties. Kane's evaluation was brief, but positive. Textbook mission planning and execution. Excellent adaptation to changing conditions. As the course progressed through its final days, Sarah's relationship with her military colleagues evolved from cautious acceptance to genuine respect. Her initial status as an outsider had been earned away through consistent performance and professional behavior. She asked intelligent questions, learned from mistakes, and contributed meaningfully to every team assignment. Lieutenant Commander Morrison observed this transformation with satisfaction. His decision to invite Sarah to the course had been somewhat controversial among his peers, but her performance was validating his judgment. More importantly, she was pushing his own operators to higher levels of performance through her example. "She's making us all better," Petty Officer Murphy admitted during a conversation with Morrison. "Having someone with that level of natural ability forces everyone to raise their game." The final exercise was designed as the course's ultimate challenge. A multi-team operation involving complex objectives, opposing forces, and the highest stress levels the instructors could create. Sarah found herself assigned to lead one of 6 teams in an operation that would determine final course rankings. Her objective was to secure a strategic overwatch position while providing fire support for other teams conducting their own missions. The scenario was deliberately complex, requiring coordination between multiple units while maintaining individual team effectiveness. Sarah's team performed flawlessly, securing their position ahead of schedule and providing critical support that enabled 2 other teams to complete their objectives successfully. Her personal shooting was exceptional, engaging targets at distances up to 400 yards while coordinating fire support requests from multiple sources. When Master Sergeant Kane announced final course results, Sarah's name appeared near the top of the rankings, not just among civilians or women, but among all participants. Her overall score placed her 3rd out of 36 highly experienced military professionals. "Outstanding performance throughout the course," Kane announced during the graduation ceremony. "Ms. Chen has demonstrated that exceptional ability can come from unexpected sources, and that civilian training can complement military skills in remarkable ways." Colonel Steele attended the graduation ceremony, his presence lending additional significance to Sarah's achievement. As certificates were distributed, he approached Sarah with a serious expression. "Ms. Chen, I have a proposition that might interest you," Steele said quietly. "Several government agencies have expressed interest in your unique skill set. There are opportunities available that would make full use of your abilities." Sarah considered the colonel's words carefully. The past 10 days had opened her eyes to possibilities she'd never considered, but they had also revealed the depth of commitment required for military service. "What kind of opportunities?" she asked. "Federal law enforcement, specialized training programs, even potential military service with advanced rank consideration," Steele explained. "Your performance here has attracted attention at very high levels." The offer was tempting, representing validation of everything Sarah had worked to achieve. But it also meant abandoning the civilian life she'd built and committing to a path with uncertain consequences. "I need time to consider my options," Sarah replied diplomatically. "Of course," Steele agreed. "But don't wait too long. Opportunities like these don't remain available indefinitely." As the graduation ceremony concluded and participants prepared to return to their regular duties, Sarah found herself surrounded by military professionals who'd become genuine friends and colleagues. The barriers that had existed 10 days earlier had been completely eliminated by shared challenges and mutual respect. Lieutenant Commander Morrison was among the last to approach, carrying a small wrapped package. "Something to remember the course by," he said, handing her the gift. Sarah unwrapped a custom unit patch bearing the course insignia and her name. Below the standard text was an additional line, "Honorary SEAL Team Member." "This is unprecedented," Morrison explained. "But then again, so was your performance. You've earned a place in our community, regardless of what you decide to do next." As Sarah drove away from the military base for what might be the final time, she reflected on the remarkable journey that had begun with a simple request to test her shooting skills. What had started as personal curiosity had evolved into opportunities she'd never imagined possible. Her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Ms. Chen, this is Agent Rebecca Foster, FBI Tactical Training Division. Colonel Steele provided your contact information. We'd like to discuss career opportunities that might interest you. Are you available for a phone conversation this week?" Sarah smiled as she read the message. The choice between her quiet civilian life and the exciting possibilities offered by government service would require careful consideration. But regardless of her decision, she had already achieved something remarkable, proving that exceptional ability could emerge from the most unexpected sources and that barriers existed primarily in people's minds rather than reality. The young woman who had once been dismissed as just a girl with shooting trophies had become something unprecedented. A civilian who had earned the respect and recognition of the military's most elite professionals. Whatever path she chose next, Sarah Chen had already written her name into military history as the girl who outshot the SEALs and opened doors that had never existed before. Her story would be told in military training facilities for years to come, inspiring other young people to pursue their own exceptional potential, regardless of traditional boundaries or expectations. Sometimes the greatest victories weren't won on battlefields, but in the quiet moments when someone proved that limits existed only in the imagination of those too afraid to test them. As Sarah merged onto the highway leading home, her future remained unwritten but filled with possibilities that had been unimaginable just a month earlier. The girl who had grinned back at a skeptical colonel's challenge had become a woman ready to take on whatever challenges awaited her next.